We're all in a car right now talking music, so I hit record on this. It's myself, Eddie, and Kickoff Kevin. And Eddie, you were in a band in high school.
Yeah.
Same band, Rum Tide the whole time?
Yeah, dude.
Even in...
Well, I was in a little band called Sprung Monkey.
That's a good name.
Yeah. It was, and I just did a couple of shows with them. I think I say it.
That's a good name for a band, Sprung Monkey.
That was high school.
Sprung Monkey. Sprung Monkey.
Sprung Monkey.
Yeah, I hear you. What was that name for?
I don't know. It wasn't even my band. They just needed a singer for a second because they were just instrumental. I mean, I'll come in, I'll sing a few songs, and I sang like
God, why would you ever be in an instrumental band unless you were like Beethoven?
They were like jazz guys.
Oh, okay, that's cool then. But you sang Push with a jazz band?
Oh, yeah, I changed them up. I was like, dude, we got to do songs that people want to hear.
Did you watch the Barbie movie?
No, not yet.
I wanna push you around.
They played that on?
Well, I will.
Dude, let me tell you what's cool about movies right now. Is that kids nowadays are learning songs our songs, like 90s songs, because of movies. The Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's good.
Always
listen
have
to old
great
music
soundtracks. Yeah. And my kids are listening to like Space Hog because of these movies. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. This is so cool.
They listen to Sprung Monkey?
Not Sprung Monkey.
Did Sprung Monkey ever get famous?
Nah. They only played coffee shops and then
Are you sure was that another band named Sprung Monkey?
No. Sprung Monkey?
Mike, will you Google Sprung Monkey?
Arctic Monkeys?
No, I know Arctic Monkeys. Yeah, that's a product.
Sprung Monkey, we played a couple coffee shops, and then a couple guys went to A&M, and a couple of other dudes went to Texas.
So you were Sprung Monkey, then Rum Tide.
Then Rum Tide, that was my band.
And Rum Tide, why was it called Rum Tide?
I don't know. We kind of had like a beach, very Jimmy Buffett meets Pearl Jam kind of style. We just loved the whole beach vibe, and then a friend of mine was like, hey, why don't you do like rum, because rum's like a beach drink, and then tide, like the ocean tide.
Rum Tide.
And at that time, I was like, dude, that is genius.
Got it. A band?
Yeah.
Exactly. There was a Sprung Monkey. I knew it.
91 to 2002.
I thought you were in that band.
That's when we were active.
Okay, when we were active.
Buddy.
Eddie said he sang 2 songs with them, and they were covers.
Who we weren't Sprung Monkey. I'm pretty sure we were Sprung Monkey.
Actually, that was just my favorite.
Michael
band in high
Montgomery's music was Sprung Monkey. Alternative?
It's like jazz. Brought a guy named Eddie Garcia in for a little bit.
Can you imagine if you are on the Wikipedia? Yeah. I remember Sprung Monkey.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, The Raging Idiots, our band now, but I was in a version of it in high school, and we played churches mostly.
You and the original Raging Idiots?
Yeah, just 2 people from school.
Was this before Concubine Kings?
Well, our original name was Concubine Kings, and we had to change that because we wanted to play churches.
I could just hear the pastor like, what the hell's wrong with you guys?
So, you know what a concubine is, Kevin?
No. It just sounds...
They're like
Prostitutes. Older days. But we called ourselves the Concubine Kings. Not really know what it meant.
Basically pimps.
Yeah, so we were playing...
That's a good way.
We were playing churches, and we'd play parodies, but make them Jesus-y. So instead of Bad to the Bone, we play Gold Up Above, do-do-do-do-do. There's gold up above, do-do. Yeah. And so we go...
Really? That's funny.
We had like 4 or 5 of those songs that we do. And we were terrible. But we'd play in the middle of service. It's crazy. And so then we broke up, and then I was doing a little bit of Raging Idiots stuff by myself, and then Eddie's Rum Tide band, I went and did a couple songs with them, much like he did Sprung Monkey. I just did a couple, you know?
Yeah.
And then the real version of the Raging Idiots, which is us now, was formed. Took all that time, you know? I was reading about these bands, though, and their biggest shows ever. What was the biggest show Rum Tide played ever, Eddie?
The biggest show Rum Tide played probably was when you sang with us at Silker Park.
Really?
Yeah. No, not true. We played a festival in South Padre Island, and there were probably about 200 people there.
They pay you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Rum Tide. Tell me that name again.
Rum Tide.
Tide because the tides come in.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about band names from history. The Beatles. What do you know about the name of the Beatles?
Beat, spelled like beat, like like a beat and not like a rhythm beat.
Do you know what John Lennon and Paul McCartney's band was called before the Beatles?
Oh, what are they called? No, Kevin?
No.
The Quarrymen.
Quarrymen?
Like a quarry, like a rock quarry?
Yeah, I don't know.
Q?
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Kevin, music trivia, ready?
Let's go.
I'll give you the members of the band. You tell me who's the band.
Okay.
Because Eddie will know all these.
I know.
Adam Clayton, Larry Mullen Jr., The Edge, Bono.
You two.
Was it Bono? The guy?
His face was so confused until you said mono.
Yes.
Chris Novoselic, various drummers. Kurt Cobain.
Nirvana.
Yeah. Various drummer ended
One
up.
drummer.
No, they had 6 before him.
Yeah, but he was the drummer.
Yes, when they busted, yes. But it said various drummers. Tom York, Colin Greenwood.
Tom York, Colin Greenwood.
There are only 2 dudes in that band?
I think there are a lot of members in that band,
Okay.
but yeah.
They're the main dudes.
Tom York's the lead singer.
It's got a wandering eye.
He does?
Yeah, and when you go to their show, the you know how like they have big screens?
Yeah.
One camera zooms in on just the eye.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Radiohead.
Okay.
Can you name a Radiohead song?
No, but I know if I heard one, I would know it.
Okay.
The one that I go to immediately is the one they I guess they play it occasionally now.
The biggest one.
Is it their biggest though?
Creep.
Yeah, is it only because they wouldn't play it became their biggest?
I think it's their biggest.
Cause I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell I never hear. I don't belong here.
All right, go high, go high. I don't be... Go.
Oh man,
Yeah, that hurt.
can't get there. Okay, Anthony Kiedis,
Oh, I know that name.
Flea,
Oh, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mike Dirnt, Trey Cool,
J. Cole.
Billy Joe Armstrong,
Um,
Mike's,
the Eagles.
Mike's about to punch you in the face.
Green Day, Keith Richards,
I just know Keith Richards. What band is he in?
I'm about to punch you in the face.
Mick Jagger,
Wait, is this your band? No, your band.
Rum Sprung Monkey.
No, your band is Pearl Jam, right?
Keith Richards, Mick Jagger.
I see. I know both their names. I don't know what band.
Wow,
That is...
that's crazy. The Rolling Stones, ever heard of them?
Oh yeah, okay.
Stone Gossard,
Oof.
Eddie Vedder.
There you go, Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Did you like him because his name was Eddie?
Me?
Yeah,
No. I mean, it helped.
I never thought about
It
that.
helped a lot.
How about Johnny Buckland, Chris Martin?
Chris Martin, Johnny Buckner. Oof. No idea.
You don't know who Chris Martin is?
Mm-mm.
Chris Martin of fill in the blank.
In my place, in my place.
Oh, yellow.
Oh, Coldplay.
Yeah.
No, I've seen them. Best concert I've ever been to.
You've been to their show.
Yeah.
Michael Stipe, Peter Buck, Mike Mills, Bill Berry.
Never heard of any of them.
REM. Coldplay's best concert you ever been to?
Ever been to? Yeah.
Best concert you ever been to? Around the room, Eddie.
Easy. Pearl Jam opening up for you too in Hawaii.
You picked the opener.
What do you mean?
You said Pearl Jam, but opening up.
No, it's just the whole show. Pearl Jam opening up for you two in Hawaii. It was incredible.
Got it. Kevin.
Coldplay in Barcelona,
Wait.
Spain.
Wait. You didn't know who Chris Martin was.
Yeah, he's been to Coldplay
His
trip.
favorite concert ever was Coldplay.
I know who Coldplay is. I don't know who Chris Martin is.
That's crazy.
I'm just saying the concert was unbelievable.
In Spain?
In Spain.
That's cool.
It was cool.
Mike D, best concert ever?
Post Malone at Exodus in Nashville before he was really famous.
Oh, of course. Of course, he's got to do one of those.
Really awesome.
Yeah. I'm so cool.
Bones?
Post Malone at the Conoco before he played.
He was pumping gas.
Yeah, he was just singing as he was working
In my
there.
backyard.
That's right.
Suck it, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, you want to play that game? Probably John Mayer in Minneapolis was really cool.
Dang, that's cool.
Garth in Little Rock.
What do you mean? The one we opened up at?
No, that's Fayetteville.
Oh, I think that's right.
That was really good. But yeah, I think that's it. Reed, what favorite concert ever?
I'm gonna go Lil Dicky in Memphis. This was in like 2014. It's just changed my life.
Like, go on the microphone and look at the road.
Grab the mic.
Reed grabbed the microphone and turned his head completely around and talked to the people
Messing
back.
with us, Lil Dicky.
Your favorite concert is Lil Dicky.
Hey, Lil Dicky's legit. Lil Dicky legit, but that's
All right, I'll change mine. Chingo Bling. San Marcos, Texas.
Baby Bash. I'm going Baby Bash, New Braunfels Amphitheater. Lil Dicky.
Memphis.
Yeah, like everything's wrong with that.
My brother got shot.
Oh, man.
That was so good, though.
Chingo bling, Afghanistan. Wait, what? What? Afghanistan? Yeah, man.
Should have been there, man.
Yes. They're still talking about it today. You have another second favorite, Eddie, if you were to list it?
Oh, man. Let's see. Let me think about
God,
that.
why do we have so much traffic? It's 3
I
o'clock.
don't know. And what
It's
do we
3
have? What's the
p.m.
percentage there?
Oh, yeah.
We're at 23%, but we were doing this on a different show, Eddie, with it.
That's just being natural, dude. I'm concerned. Let's see.
We're in an electric car right now, and Eddie's freaking out because we have 54 miles. Don't look at the percentage. Look at the miles you have on it.
Oh, the percentage is like, it's what you do on a phone. You look at the little icon on the top. When it turns red, ooh, dude, you're in trouble.
Or not red, although they do turn red sometimes if you get like less than 10%.
In the car?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've done that before.
How far were you from the house?
Pretty close, but it's like it'll say, you know how the phone will go, hey, you want to use lower power version?
Yes.
The car will do that
What's
too.
lower power version? No AC?
Probably something like that.
Yeah, I would think so. Everything gets dim.
The floor comes out and you do Fred Flintstone feet.
You have to pedal.
Okay. Biggest concert you've ever been to? Most people.
Stagecoach for me. Does that count?
Yeah.
Festival,
yeah,
right?
festival,
Okay, yeah.
sure.
Been to multiple.
Okay.
I don't know, Bones. What's yours?
I mean, I've been to Stagecoach, but he already picked that one.
Yeah. What about like Garth? That was really big, right?
Oh, yeah.
100,000?
100,000 people
100,000?
where we played. But we played it.
That was crazy.
I
I don't know if I've been bigger than that.
Smallest concert. Post Malone at the Urinal.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Thank you.
Welcome to a special Bobbycast. On this episode, it's artists talking about jobs they had before they made it. We have such a library. We have almost 400 episodes here. And whether it's working in an oil field or a medical field or being a celebrity impersonator or a server, most of the jobs that these artists or creatives had nothing to do with music. Most of them knew they wanted to sing, but they had to take jobs to pay the bills while still pushing for their dream. So there you go. Maybe this motivates and inspires you to keep going, or maybe you're just entertained by it. So here you go. We'll hear from Craig Morgan, Matthew Ramsey from Old Dominion, Lainey Wilson, Bailey Zimmerman, Craig Campbell, John Michael Montgomery, Trisha Yearwood, Nate Smith, and so many more. And this is a really cool episode we put together.
What about you? What odd jobs did you have growing up?
Odd. I worked, obviously, at Hobby Lobby. I did maintenance on a golf course. Never actually got to play on that golf course, but I weed-eated the crap out of it, mowed the greens, raked the sand traps, drove a mini tractor. So I did that.
You never got to play on it?
No. They didn't let the scrubs play on the course.
Not even like an after-hours thing?
No. It was a country club, and so they wouldn't let us play. I've played adult version, and then I just would kick holes in the dirt and tear the green up on purpose. No, I didn't do any of that, Mike. I did worked at a marina for a while, waited tables, obviously, but stuff like that, same thing, just buying school clothes, paying the bills. Okay, so let's do this. It's the Bobbycast special with jobs that artists had before they made it. Kicking it off with Craig Morgan on how being in the military made him want to pursue a career in music even more. Your story into country music, and I just touch on this briefly, is really cool because you were in the military and weren't your superiors going, hey man, you got to go chase this music thing?
That's the reason I'm here today. I would not have left. Man, I'm from Nashville. I was born in General Hospital down here. My mom used to always say I was supposed to be born at Baptist, but they didn't make it. They had to stop at General. Grew up in and around the music business my whole life. My dad was a musician. Kingston Springs was home. I graduated from Cheatham County High School. Went to MTSU. So music was always part of it. Avoided it. Went in the military, and I think being in the military really made me really miss and appreciate not just music, but home in Nashville. So it was always a big part of my life. You know what I mean?
Was it not? You didn't realize it was as valuable to you until you got away from it?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's what my dad did, but my dad also had another job.
Oh, really?
And I thought, I don't want to do something that I got to do something else to be able to do it. Of course, then I got out of the Army and did everything else while I was trying to make it in the business. But to get back to your question, it was I was always nervous about it. I'm like, my wife and I would talk. I was writing songs and kind of writing songs.
While you were in the Army?
While I was in the Army.
And you're playing.
For fun, you know.
Were you playing around? I mean, were you playing around the other guys?
Oh, dude, like in Panama, I just did a show, a TV show, and I brought in 5 of my buddies that I served with in Panama in 1989. It was my team. The guys worked for me. And we sat around and talked about it, and they talked about how I used to play music, and like, I don't even really remember that. They're like, you don't remember? We used to sit around the barracks and drink beer, and you would play, and Tim, my buddy, was like, man, me and you played all the time together. Like, I have vague memories of that. I more remember all of the stuff that we went through. And they're like, yeah, but when we weren't doing all those things, this is what we did. You know, like, so they were all very encouraging. And it came to a point in my career, I was 10 and a half years of active duty, and I had to make a decision. I was going to re-enlist again, or I was going to pursue the music. And I was just nervous about it. I didn't have near the confidence that a lot of people, I talked to Blake about it a lot, especially early on in our careers. Blake left everything, man, comes here. A lot of musicians that try this, excuse me, they come here with nothing or no one. And so in my head, I'm going, well, at least it's where I'm from. I got family. I can work with Dad. I can at least have that. So, and then if it don't work, I can go back in the Army. I'm going to stay in the active reserves so I don't lose any of my time in service, my rank, any of those things. I never would have done it. I got to be honest. If I'd have been a guy from Arkansas or Missouri or Texas or Oklahoma, I would not be a country singer today. It's only because I was from Nashville and my family was here and it was home to me. So I felt like my worst case was at least I'm around my family. And if it don't work, I'll go back in the Army.
How long until you came back home, but also you're kind of venturing into this new world of country music? How long until you realized, hey, I kind of do deserve to be here? Like, maybe I'm not as good as I'm going to be, but like I can compete. How long was it in country music before you started to feel that way?
I'm working on it.
Yeah? Well, who told you? Because we talked about it before we came on the air here. Like, when people invest in you, that means they believe in you, and that believes you're going to make them eventually down the road some money, right? Yeah. Because business and friendship, there's a lot of friendship in business, but if someone's going to spend money on you, that they believe in you. What that means, they believe that you're going to help them make money.
Yeah, and that was
who believed in you.
Early on it was a bunch of different people. Ironically enough, it was one of the guys was a guy that wasn't even in the business. He was a contractor. And he wanted to be in the business, and he had done very well with his business, made a lot of money. And he's like, you got to do this. I will pay for your house if it doesn't work. Give it a year. And he's one of the guys that convinced me to get out of the Army, and that was the reason why. He said, if you get out of the Army and you try it, after a year, if it don't work, I'll pay your house off, and you can go back in the Army. Like, I got nothing to lose here. And there was also a couple guys that had a small publishing company. Wes Mayers was one of those guys, and they said, we'll sign you to a publishing deal, and they paid me money. It wasn't much, but it was enough, and they believed in me, which led to Maypop Publishing, which was owned by Alabama, which led to Sony Publishing. So it was a lot of those little pieces. But back to the commander, my colonel at Fort Polk, Louisiana, when I was at that deciding point, I'll never forget sitting down with him and the general, and both of those gentlemen said, we believe that if you stay in the Army, you will be the sergeant major of the Army someday. You're fast tracking. You're good at what you do. But we also think that you should at least try this. It was that conversation that led to me pursuing, taking those 40 weekends when I was off and coming to Nashville, meeting with the Wes Mayers, meeting with the Brian Schweitzers and all of these different people. And literally within a year of me leaving the Army, almost to the day when I was ready to cash in on my buddy's commitment and go back into the Army, Brian Schweitzer called me from Atlantic Records and said, I want to offer you a record deal.
And how'd that make you feel?
Nervous, because I was wanting the publishing. I had those small publishing deals. At this point, I was writing for Maypop. So I was getting a little more money, which allowed me to not have to work in vinyl siding. And I was working as a sheriff's deputy as well. So I was doing vinyl siding on the side, working as a sheriff's deputy, and then doing security as a off-duty sheriff's deputy. You know what I mean? And for doing writers' nights every weekend. And you know what I mean? There was a lot going on. So it gave me a little bit more confidence, but it also made me very nervous because I knew, based on everything everybody told me, as an artist in the beginning, you make nothing, man, on shows and stuff. In fact, everybody else will be making money and you won't. But I was also making a little bit in the publishing, and I started getting a lot of interest in a lot of the songs that I was writing. So I thought, I might try it. This is at that point, so I'm going to go ahead and try it. When I left the Army to come here to pursue the music, it was not to pursue it as an artist. It was to pursue it as a songwriter. Because I had a wife and 2 kids, and I knew that you could make money writing songs, and I could still do other things to make more money, And then in the process of writing my songs and doing that, I was doing my own demos, and then I started doing other people's demos. And in that 1 year's time, it turned into that phone call. But which was really weird the way that phone call came from, where he heard my music. It wasn't through an A&R team. It wasn't through a publicist or a publisher. It came from a guy who boarded his horses, who I knew, who every time I would demo my music, I would take it to him, and Jeff would play it. And this guy, Brian Schweitzer, happened to be boarding his horses at Jeff's stables and heard it and asked him, who is that? And he told him, and he called me.
And he made a decision that he wanted to sign you from just listening to
a demo.
Wow.
Called me and said, can you come in? I was on my way home from a writing session, had the third shift with the sheriff's department at that time. I said, yeah. And he said, where are you? And I said, I'm on Interstate 40, but I can turn around. I had a Jeep Wrangler. And I'll never forget, I cut across the interstate, right in the middle of the interstate, turned around and came right back 15 minutes. I was in the office, and they asked me to sing something. And I said, well, they heard one of the demos. They said, sing it. I want to hear you sing it live. I'm like, well, I don't really play it. It's a pianist. It's just, and Al Cooley was there. Al Cooley was one of the most horrendous A&R guys, a brutally, beastfully honest A&R guy. Looking back, he was one of the best. But I just remember he had this reputation of being like mean, terrible mean, But what it was, he was honest, and he probably saved a lot of people's lives. And they had me sing a song called 302 South Maple Avenue, a cappella. And so I sang it, and literally, right, sitting like this right here, 302 South Maple Avenue. And I sang a little bit, and he says, we'd like to sign you to a record deal.
Jeez.
Yeah, just like that. Strangest thing ever. So I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, you have attorney? I'm like, yeah. How about management? I'm like, yeah. So I walked out of the office, and I called my wife. No, I did not call my wife. I did not, because I got home, and I said, I just got offered a record deal. And she said, what did they say? I said, they asked me if I had managers and attorney and shit. What did you say? I told them, yeah. And she's like, well, you got a manager? And I'm like, no, I got to find a manager. I didn't have nothing,
That's wild that it all came from a horse. From
a guy who boarded horses.
Crazy.
He owned Joe Go Quick, the world champion quarter horse at the time. And I would take him music, and if Jeff liked it, he would let me ride Joe. And if he didn't like the song, he'd put me.
Not
say,
today,
go right
Craig.
Yeah.
Here's Matthew Ramsey from Old Dominion on how he chose music after getting his degree in art illustration. When you were in Virginia making music, about what year was that? When you were dedicated to music, but you were not in Nashville?
That was probably 2000.
And so you're 18, 19, 20 years old?
No.
23 years old?
Yeah. Probably 20. How old am I now? I'm actually 43,
So if that's the case, then why not move to Nashville then? Did you have a different career path in mind where you were going to do it from Virginia? Was it slightly different than what you've expected?
Yeah, well, I went to art school. I got a degree in illustration, and those are two. I was passionate. I am still passionate about both things, and I kind of got to the end of college and thought, I can't half-ass both of these things. I need to focus on one, and music wound up being the thing I chose. So then I sort of did. Yeah, I made like a self-funded, CD and just got to the point where I felt like I had exhausted everything in that area and played everywhere I could, and made my money back on my CD, and it was time to take another step.
Going into art school, what was that plan? Let's say the music thing didn't work out, or you were at the crossroads and you didn't choose music. I think that's the better question.
Yeah.
Like, what was the plan with illustration? What was the career outlook there?
I mean, there are, you start to realize, I started to realize on my senior year when you're kind of just doing all these independent studies and things, and you start to realize that all your professors are starting to view you as their competition. So you start to see like, well, I'm going to be able to maybe teach or, pick up some, magazine illustrations or.
Like, is that drawing? Talk to me like a dumb guy, because that's what I am.
Yeah,
here.
it's all of it. Painting, drawing, printmaking, stuff like that. So.
Painting a picture on a canvas?
Yeah.
You can do that?
Yeah.
You're a good artist like that?
Yeah. I can hold my own, yeah.
Do you do that for fun at all?
Yes. I mean, I just painted recently a picture for the first time in a while, which was very therapeutic, and I want to do it more. I posted a little thing on my own Instagram of it, but it's gone now. But
like, if I was naked.
I took several years of figure drawing classes where someone would come in and
we had those in college.
Yeah.
And they would be like $50 if you go stand naked. And I was broke, but I wasn't that broke.
Right. I always thought about those people like, man, you must need this money.
I thought about it in the same way, in two ways. Either I was envious of the fact that they had no inhibition at all.
Right.
That they would go, hey, whatever. If people need to draw something, I'll show my wiener.
Right.
I was so embarrassed, and I'm still so embarrassed of my wiener that I just wouldn't. We had a bit on the show one, and I'm a quarter joking, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you're laughing, so I guess I got to be like, I'm joking. But we had a thing. This is when we were in Austin, and I was pretty early in my career. I just started to build my syndication company. We were doing mostly pop and hip hop stations, and we were, at the time, I was a wild and crazy guy. Now I'm just a guy that gets in trouble because I say things sometimes that the industry doesn't want me to say, but then I was just being an idiot for no other reason than just being an idiot. And so we did a bit where we had an artist come in, and the loser had to get naked and be drawn. And I lost.
Ooh.
And I had to sit in a room, like a closet, and I remember him for no other reason than just drawing it he had to eyeball my dong.
Yeah, so you did it, huh? Wow.
What I avoided for years, I did it in a radio segment.
Wow. Well, I mean, you faced your fear, though, so that's good, right?
So would you do that to me if I says, like, I would like to pose nude and have you draw a picture?
I don't think I could do that.
Heath Sanders talks about his crazy journey from working in the oil fields to getting a record deal.
I'm trying to just kind of get a grasp on when you started to go, even if it's not for a career, I want to go out and sing and make a little extra money. Because that's what you were doing when I met you. You were singing at a bar, right?
Yeah, so my first love was drums. Got my first set of drums when I was 10, and then I played the drums on up through my teens. And
any sort of band in high school, like rock band or anything?
No. My poor parents, man, we lived in about an 800 square foot 2-bedroom house, and I practiced 5 hours a day. And I don't know how they kept their sanity. But later on, I think I was around 19 or 20. I had a band called the Los Gringos out of Conway, Arkansas, hit me up, and I went and drummed for them in local bars. Then I played for a band out of my hometown called Cabin Fever. I sang a few while I played.
Drums, though?
Yeah, all drums.
So, did you graduate high school?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so did you go to college at all?
Mm-mm.
So, most people in my town didn't go to college either because nobody was going to college. You worked at the mill.
Yeah.
You know
that's
where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
So, you finish high school, and do you go start working in the oil fields then and then playing music on the side?
Yeah. So I got a job in the oil fields. Actually, I worked at a Pizza Hut.
Right out of high school?
Yeah, right out of high school. Or I was in high school at the time. As soon as I turned 18, I had a regular that came in about once a week at Pizza Hut. And I guess he took a liking to me and my work ethic. And I always took good care of him and his wife and everything. And so the day I turned 18, he had me a job lined up at a wellhead repair business out of Alma, Arkansas. And I'd done that for about a year, and then ended up going and doing some other stuff, trimming trees and stuff for Arkansas Electric. But yeah, I was doing music on the side, but that only lasted a couple years. After the drum career was over, me and a buddy, we started a little duo.
Also, making drums for a local band, you're not making much money.
No,
I mean, honestly, playing drums for a band, for an artist with 1 or 2 hits, you're not making that much money.
That's right.
You're still trying to get your place
hopefully the art, like for you, for example, if you're hiring a drummer, you're going to pay him, a couple $100 a show or whatever it is, if it's a good show for you. But he's not in it for the couple $100. He's in it because if you blow up, he's going to be your drummer.
That's it.
The same way you're not making a bunch of money right now, but you're doing this because if you do blow up, then you're set.
It's a time investment.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I mean, anyone in the creative world have had to do it. I've had to do it. So, okay, so you're not making a bunch of money, but you're working Monday through Friday. But are you playing shows Friday and Saturday nights?
Yeah, but it's not. We're playing like the local VFW, and it's just all our buddies. And after the drum thing was done, we started a little duo, and we only played maybe 6 or 7 shows, man. Before I said, you know what, I'm getting up too early during the week, and then we're staying out all night partying. And
it's crazy that they didn't let you sing. If you just sang one song, like you're like, I'd sing occasionally on the drums. How do you sing one song and they not look at you and go, "Oh, you're the one that should sing"?
Well, it's
Did
crazy.
you feel like you were better than the lead singer, to be honest? Singing, just singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, well, but then again, you sign up as a drummer, man. You don't want to step on anybody's toes.
If I was a singer of that band and you started singing and I knew you were better than me, I'd be like, no more songs for that guy. You wouldn't have sang another note. You would have sang one and beat me and been like, well, why do we have the drummer singing? You need to focus on your... So, okay, you're waking up too early in the morning. You decide you don't want to wake up and then stay up all night and play it and then do it again.
Yeah, and then I just dropped it completely. I just walked away from it completely.
Was that hard?
No.
What was the duo called?
It was just me and my buddy Daniel.
And what would you do?
I would sing and play the bongos. Mm-hmm. I had a little set of bongos and a tambourine that I would like tap around on. Oh, it was so bad, dude. It was so bad.
And he would do what?
He'd play the guitar. He'd play the guitar and sing, and then when I sang, he'd sing harmony for me. And
you quit music but how long did you stop doing shows?
It had to be, dude. It had to be 11 years, 12 years.
Insane, right?
Dang.
Isn't that's insane?
It's nuts.
So, but is there this thirst inside of you to somehow, at some point, get back out there, even if it's for fun? Or have you just been like, that was an old me?
Yeah, there really was, man. There always was that there, but you just, man, you put making a living in front of everything. You can't be dragging in Monday morning, when guys' lives depend on you, and you being there in body and mind. But I tell you what, really reignited this, and I haven't had the opportunity to tell this story very much, so I don't, but there's a girl named Charlotte Lee here in town. She's from Arkansas, and back when they cut my hours in the oil field, I was looking for side work, and on top of playing music on the side a little bit. Kind of had that idea in the back of my mind, but it just wasn't. It hadn't come to fruition yet. But I had a friend that knew I was looking for side work, and she called me up one day, and she was like, "Hey, I got this girl. Her band needs a ride, and needs a driver in a van to go to Billy Bob's in Texas to open up for the Eli Young band." And she's like, "Pays pretty good, so do you want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So one weekend, I spent driving Charlotte down to Billy Bob's and just being around that environment again and spending the night at Billy Bob's and watching Eli Young and helping them load in and load out. I caught the bug, man. I caught the bug, and it was the next week that I bought my PA system and started playing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you going to help somebody else get down there is what helps you get here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was ate up. By the time I got back, I was like, oh, my God, I want to do this again.
So when you get home, you think, I just watched it. It reminds me of how much I loved it. What's the first step then? Do you start going, let me write some songs? You get an old guitar out?
Yeah, you find something you can sell so you can afford to to buy the stuff that it takes to do that. And yeah, man, I'll tell you, my first gig out, Bobby, was terrible.
Well, did you still have a guitar though?
Yeah, I had an old guitar. Yeah.
And how was it?
Terrible. It's awful. I still got it.
Yeah, but was it good enough to go and play at a bar?
Yeah.
And is that what you did?
It was good enough. Yeah.
So what was the first I won't even say show. What was your first performance back after kind of sitting out for 10 years?
So we discussed the other day, me and you discussed my buddy's restaurant, my buddy Ryan's restaurant in Leslie, Arkansas, and he offered to let me come play up there. And it was a little sooner than I expected, so I had to cram learning a 2-hour set list. Hadn't done this in 12, 13 years, and I get up there and I do pretty good my first set. Now, the town comes out. I mean, of course, everybody knows I can sing.
Wow, so people came to watch.
Yeah, so people came out. I mean, the place was packed. And
coming out of retirement.
Let's go.
Heath Sanders. Okay.
Packing out Ryan's Main Street Grill, baby. Anyways, I get up there and my first set goes pretty good for as polished up as I am, which is not very. But the second set, now Ryan's got a mom, and her name's Vicky, and she's the biggest sweetheart you ever meet in your life, but she's got a little ornery side to her now.
What does that mean?
I mean, she's just got a little meanness in her, but she's just sweet as can be. And when I come off for a break after my first set, she walked up and she handed me a scotch glass full of Patron with salt and lime, and she said, "Dare ye?" And I turned it up, Bobby. And that was the biggest mistake I've made in the music industry to date, because I got back up there, and by the time I'd got to about my fourth song, that Patron hit me, and I think about a third of the people left. I think they got up and left.
Now, I don't know if you're being, a little facetious, exaggerating a little bit. Do you think that you were slurring? Your guitar playing wasn't as good?
Yeah, I think I started probably missing chords and slurring a little bit. And the hometown was pretty disappointed in me. I come down off the stage and I told Ryan, I was like, dude, I don't think this is for me, man. I don't think this is for me.
Oh, period.
Yeah, I was like, dude,
you were grand opening, grand closing.
I was
like
drunk.
That.
Yeah, I was drunk, but I was humiliated. Something fierce.
What did he tell you?
He's like, no, dude, you're meant to do this.
So what's next? What'd you do after that? Did you get there again?
Yeah. I ended up playing Ryan's a few more times, and the local VFW. There's always the VFW, man.
Would they give you $50 or anything?
Yeah. Tips and $50, or they charge a little cover and a couple of $3, and you make gas money, man. That's really what it was for me, dude. It was all about being able to buy my lunch at work.
Gas money and also some sort of fulfillment, right? Like you had the bug. You needed the bug to be fed.
Sure. Yeah.
So at what point did you make that video? Did you start to play bars and start making a little more money as you started to get better? Was there like a scene near where you were in Arkansas where you could play a bar and they'd give you $150 or so?
That's really it. Yeah. The crowds, once I stuck with it, the crowd started kind of turning out, and local businesses, word spreads pretty fast in those little towns, and, on Facebook and stuff. And I think I had about 500 followers on my Facebook. So, word was getting out, and I started playing some restaurants and bars in Conway and Clinton and stuff. And, it was pretty wild, man, to look back on.
When I heard you playing that what bar was that you were playing in when I heard that clip? The Stapleton one.
Oh, I was in my bedroom at my house.
Oh, that wasn't, I guess that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yep.
I was thinking of another video of you playing in a bar somewhere that someone had sent me. But yeah, that's right. It wasn't your bedroom. What kind of places were you playing at that point? Same stuff?
Yeah, just little restaurants and little bars, man. I mean, mostly it was like if I played a bar in Marshall, like a place like Ryan's, people came to listen. If I played a bar in Conway, a third of the people came to listen, and the other 2/3 were just there to eat their meal, and I was background noise. So,
did you think that you had a career at all, or the day you recorded that in your room, did you have just a sliver that you could do this for a living?
No. That's
really?
me being honest.
Oh, I believe you.
Yeah, 100% honest. No, sir. Not ever one time did it ever cross my mind, hey, man, you might have a chance in Nashville. You might have a chance to make a living doing this.
Had you ever been up here to Nashville?
Mm-mm. I've never seen the town.
So one night I'm on Facebook, and a friend said, hey, did you see this guy, Heath Sanders? He's from, around where we're from, obviously. And I was like, no, let me watch it. And I get videos. Good God. I mean, I'm tagged. If somebody sings, period, I'm tagged in it.
Well, dude, any video I comment on TikTok or Instagram, hey, dude, can you tag Bobby and let?
So TikTok's but Facebook, people leave music on my car if they know, but that's the tree that I grew.
Sure.
So I ain't hating the tree.
Yeah, I own it, bro.
But sometimes the tree will drop a nut on your head. You're like, oh, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a great tree. But I was like, all right, let me just look at it. Because somebody from where I'm from is going to get a little more of a look than somebody not.
Yeah.
At least a first look. And I was like, let me see if this guy's any good. And I heard you, and I was like, wow, that guy's pretty good. Then I remember I messaged you on Facebook and just said, hey, Heath, it's Bobby Bones. And you didn't message me back for a little bit. Because I think maybe you thought it was a spam account.
Yeah, I was on the phone with my tour manager because he's the one that called me and told me you wrote me because you wrote me on my music page. And he called me and told me,
Was
and I
he
called him
running
back.
the music page, or was he?
He was
on
part of it. Yeah, he was on it.
So
And
he saw me message.
Yeah, he saw you. I actually saw the message pop up after he had called. I'd got off and the banner was still up. But I ended up calling back, and I was like, man, I don't think that's a spam account. I think that's
So then one of my producers, Morgan or Elena?
It was Morgan.
It was Morgan.
Yeah.
So Morgan now works with me on my management team.
Mm-hmm.
But she messaged you, was like, no, that's really him.
Yeah.
And so you and I talked, and I don't remember if I said, hey, was it like, hey, get to Nashville tomorrow or this week or what?
I don't remember, man. That's such a blur. But what's crazy is that when Morgan answered the phone, or when I answered the phone, it was Morgan. Like, dude, I felt like I knew her. 'Cause I've been listening to you guys for 5 years. I'm talking religiously every morning from 6 to 10, dude. That was it. I mean, I work by myself. So
it could have been a person pranking you as me too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Morgan, hey, let's get him to Nashville. And you drove overnight, if I'm remembering.
I don't think so. Here's the deal. Here's why I don't think so, and I don't remember it very well.
It's a better story if you say that. But
well,
go ahead.
I know it kind of is. I know it kind of is, and I don't want to kill it. But
go ahead.
So here's the deal. Here's the truth, man. When my phone went off and it was you, I was sitting down. I was sitting there in my living room with my pen in my hand and my guitar in my lap, writing Bloodline. I had a first verse and a half a chorus written when the phone. That's the first song I ever wrote, dude. Like,
oh, ever?
Yeah.
You weren't really considering yourself a real songwriter.
I tried to write a couple songs in my early 20s back when I was doing the show thing, and they were so bad, dude. They were so bad that I didn't ever try again. I just thought it wasn't for me. And I woke up, I think it was Sunday. I think it was a Sunday you reached out because I woke up that day like, man, I ain't got nothing to do. Let's try to write a song, because the video just went viral and it kind of inspired me a little bit. And so that was crazy. The first time I'd ever picked up a pen in 13, 14 years. Phone goes off and it's the DJ that I listen to every morning, the morning show I listen to every morning for 5 years. You know, it's like, I don't know what kind of timing. Anyways.
No, listen.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
It could be some sort of divine.
Something.
I just don't like to throw myself in the mix with, yep, me and God, we worked that out. We had a little talk. I knew it.
Bobby making phone calls, man. Yeah. But no, I ended up calling my buddy Jamie Jones as soon as I got off the phone with you the next day, because you invited me down to sing one of my songs. Well, dude, I didn't have a song. I had half a song. So I freaked out, dude. I agreed, but I was freaking out inside.
See, I didn't know you didn't have a song.
Yeah, dude, I didn't. And I called my buddy Jamie Jones, which lives in Dardanelle, and I think we spent a day on it. And because I think it was only like 2 days you gave me to get to Nashville. But I that's why I say I don't think it was overnight, because me and Jamie finished the song like the next day. And then I was sitting in the motel room the night before the show learning how to play the dang thing and trying to remember the words.
So you come in, you perform, and didn't you leave with one of them, or like go somewhere with one of them?
Yeah, first I went and walked around Sony with LT. And
so they liked you. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, no, they introduced me to all the staff, and then Brian said to call him after we left there, so we went and hung out with Brian at Universal and went up to his office and sit and listened to a bunch of uncut Chris Stapleton stuff and a bunch of uncut Eric Church stuff, and it was awesome.
That's got to be cool,
dude. It was crazy.
That'd be worth the trip
I
alone.
left there with a stack of vinyls. I could barely get out the door, man. It was so killer, dude. That my first trip to Nashville, and I get to go do that. Really, that was crazy.
So because I've known George for a long time, how did you guys get into contact?
So I met my management pretty early on, which is Pete Hartung and L3, and he manages Justin Moore.
Got it.
Right? Justin is on George's label, and Pete had told George about me early on. They didn't get too excited, man, really. But George did come out when we went out to cut 5 sides, which Bloodline was one of them, and then Proud and Down in the South, which we ended up releasing independently. When we went out to cut those at the Castle, George ended up just popping up, and I was like, "Well, Pete, who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the head of Valerie, and that's Justin's guy." And I was like, "Awesome, man." And so George ended up hanging out with us the whole day, and George has just kind of kept tabs on this thing the whole time. This whole time, he's just always kind of been in the background. And then he got me a meeting with Borchetta one day, and I had 4 songs total in my catalog, man. I played Borchetta 3 songs, and he was like, "Well, you got any more?" And I was like, "Well, I got one more." And he's like, "Well, play us your full catalog, But yeah, George has just always kind of been there, man.
Did you get a publishing deal first?
Yeah. At Sony. I think they changed it. They changed the name the other day to Sony Music Publishing or something.
So that's got to be pretty cool that they're paying you to write songs. Heck, you didn't even write a song until.
I know, dude. That's what's crazy. And I told Pete, man, I had, being established and having a life there in Arkansas and having bills to pay and all that, and not being able to just jerk up and move. I told Pete, man, I'm not some spring chicken. I need a paycheck before I make that leap. And sure enough, man, we got the pub deal before I even had an address in Tennessee, which is something to be said for Sony there.
How crazy was it to quit your job, like a work to come and do music?
It was terrifying, dude.
Yeah,
it was terrifying. Yeah, that took a lot of soul searching, man. It really did, because you don't walk away from a job like that in Arkansas, because once you leave it, you never get it back. You've got 100 guys behind you that are just as dedicated and just as hardworking that are waiting to take your position. So I knew that there was no return if I jumped in. It was both feet first,
but also how exciting.
It was amazing,
right?
Yeah.
So, but did you write songs, drive back and forth for a while? Did you come to Nashville and stay in Arkansas?
Yeah, a year and a half. I would get up. This was my schedule. I'd get up on Sunday, and I'd drive. It was about 6.5 hours. Drive 6.5 hours to Nashville, and I'd write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and typically Thursday morning. And then I would drive home Thursday night, and then we'd play shows Friday and Saturday, and then I'd drive back to Nash on Sunday.
Here's Lainey Wilson on how she was a Hannah Montana impersonator for years before she made it big.
Were you just grinding on the road all those years?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you were making your money?
Yep.
To pay rent or mortgage or bills? It was just all...
Yep. In high school, I taught guitar lessons, and I impersonated Hannah Montana.
Well, both of these are something we got to dive into. So first of all, let's start with the easy one. You taught guitar lessons.
Yes.
Are you a proficient guitar player?
I mean, I know enough to get by. I mean, they weren't paying me the big bucks. I know enough to teach somebody the basics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were making
I'm not
okay money
bad.
doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I was, yeah.
You ever grab an electric and play any of your leads? Could you,
on one string.
Could you? Okay, the Hannah Montana thing's crazy to me.
Yes.
So and you do look a little bit like Hannah Montana.
The best of both worlds.
Doesn't she, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
Uh-huh.
So you were performing in high school as a Hannah Montana impersonator.
Yep.
And
5 years.
Did you do the thing where you had Lainey open up for Hannah Montana?
Yes, I
did. Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, it's kind of being funny.
No,
Okay,
I really did. I was like, we're not leaving here without them knowing my name too, Bobby. Come on.
So you would open.
Yes.
And then you would put on Hannah Montana as costume?
Okay, so I had a little portable sound system and a little piece of junk karaoke machine style thing, and I had the wig, I had the outfits. I would go to a lot of these it was like birthday parties, fairs, festivals. The last one I did was at St. Jude, and a lot of the time they didn't want Lainey Wilson there. They just wanted Hannah Montana to come to the party or whatever. So, but I would be sure to ask them. I'd be like, can Lainey make an appearance too? So yeah, I'd get up there, sing a few songs, play my guitar, and then I'd be like, and up next.
And you would know the songs?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever do The Climb?
I did.
You sang that?
And it's a funny story. This is probably one of my most defining moments of you got to do this. You got to move to Nashville. I was at St. Jude, and this little girl had brain surgery 2 days prior to the Hannah Montana concert. And they had told me before, they were like, you can't touch the kids unless they come up to you, and, then you can touch them, if they make the first move first. Right. And
all my dating.
Yeah, I get it. Trust me. Don't make the first move. But anyway, I was just about to sing The Climb, and her dad, he wheeled her up to the front, and she was singing every word to The Climb. And I mean, Hannah Montana's crying. My wig is on sideways. I'm like, everybody in the whole entire building is just squalling. And anyway, I turn around, and then she's looks at me again, and I hand her the microphone, and she sings the entire song.
Oh, wow.
By herself, just kills it. Everybody's crying. And she hands me the microphone back, and she meant to say, Hannah Montana, you're my star. But she said, Hannah Montana, I'm your star. And I was like, you know what? You are. And I have got to do this the rest of my life.
And how long did you do Hannah Montana impersonating?
5 years.
Wow. Was that your best paying gig?
Absolutely. I made way more money then than I do now, I'm going to tell you right now.
I think there's often a misconception too with how much artists make until they're really making it.
We ain't making nothing.
It's almost like, lower class, and then there's no middle class.
Oh, no.
Very rarely
It's
is
all
there
or
a middle
nothing.
class. It's low, and then boom. And not just music, but anything creative. Even in my industry, I was broke, not broke anymore. And it went, because as soon as someone sees value in you, they start investing in you because they know that if they invest in you, you're going to make them way more money.
That's right.
And it's always with any amount of money that you make, it's how much money are you making the person paying you.
That's right.
And that's why artists who it may not seem like they're doing a lot of actual work, especially like where I come from. It was a sawmill town.
Yeah.
That's real work.
Yep.
That was like hard labor work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how much money can someone make off of you? Like, what is your skill that we can, I'll use the word exploit. What's the skill that we can exploit and we can make money? And then you make no money. Then someone goes, oh, you're actually really valuable. Now we're going to pay you. It's crazy. It's like a whole crazy world that we live in.
It is crazy.
Here's Craig Campbell talking about going from a maintenance worker at an apartment complex to playing piano for a major country artist before becoming an artist himself.
So back to you. You're playing 13 weeks in a row. And you got to be like, this is it.
This is awesome.
Like, I'm playing music and I'm paying my bills.
Yeah.
Like, what greater thrill to do something that you love and to support yourself by doing something. Because most people, we're lucky, dude. Most people hate their jobs. Most people in life hate their jobs.
Yeah, I believe that.
My stepdad hated his job. Worked at Sawmill. Hated his job every day. Came home, was always like, I hate this job. But he did it so we could eat.
Right.
And he hated his job, but he did it for us. I never hated my job. Like, I had jobs when I was younger, when I golf course maintenance, or when I worked at the marina. But I loved my job even when I was there. Now, you're loving your job and you're playing music every night. And so when do you go, okay, I think I'm ready to try something a little bigger than this?
We had a guitar player. He quit once, and then he went to another regional band, and then he came back to us, and we did that, and then he quit again. And when a band member quits in this situation, wherever you're doing a regional stuff and you're playing 6 nights a week, it's very rehearsed. Like the sets, you play 5 sets a night, 40-minute sets. Each set has its transitions and this and that. And I said, you know what? I don't want to have to learn. I don't want to have to teach a new guitar player the set. I just don't want to do it. So I called my buddy, and he said he was going through a hard time. He was already living in Nashville. I said, hey, do you have any room? He says, man, I'm sorry, I can't, nothing right now. He said, but if I can get you a job, will you move? And I was like, shoot, yes.
A job?
Yeah.
Like
he was working maintenance at an apartment complex.
Okay.
He says, I think I know somebody across the way that is looking for maintenance / groundskeeper. I said, dude, hook me up.
For an apartment complex?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came to town on a Thursday. My interview was on Friday.
How old were you?
23.
You come to town to Nashville with music in your head, but you have steps to before you can even get to the music. Okay, so you're going to work, for lack of a better term, just maintenance, like I said. So you're going to work maintenance in an apartment complex. You interview?
I interview. She calls me back that afternoon and says, we want to hire you. She said, I know you don't know much about maintenance, because I was honest. I said, I've never done this. She said, but I can tell that you want this job. She said, so I want you to have this job, like $8.25 an hour. But I did get 30% off my rent, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I did that probably 15 months.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, are you playing the Broadway gigs?
No, I haven't started Broadway.
So you were in Nashville for a year and you hadn't started playing music yet. Was it driving you crazy?
It was, just because I didn't know anybody. I was very secluded. But I would go downtown to Lower Broadway into Printer's Alley, and I would watch bands and just think, man, I want to do this. And this is another level of making it, So
was it intimidating for you? Because when people come to this town, they always think, I'm good. And then you look around.
It was very intimidating.
You look around and you go, holy crap. These are people playing bars, and they're fantastic.
Right. This is the melting. This is the concentration of amazingness. So this, as luck would have it, I was at a showcase one night at Douglas Corner, and there was a guy. He had the Saturday night 10 to 2 spot at the stage, which was the
big place to go down Lower
well,
Broadway.
and the 10 to 2 spot on Saturday night
Right.
was the spot you wanted. It's packed.
Packed. I mean, it's
Party.
shoulder to shoulder.
So I met him, and he's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a piano player." He said, "Really?"
So that's what you were at the time. You were the keys player.
Well, it was just easier for me to say that than to say a singer, because I mean,
or even a guitar player, because
Yeah.
everybody does both.
So he says, "What are you doing Saturday?" I said, "I ain't got nothing to do." He said, "Come down Saturday night and set up."
That's interesting because you were a singer and you did play guitar, but you knew that there was
to get my foot in the door.
That your piece was to play the keys
Because there were no piano players downtown.
Wow. So okay, there are no piano players. You go and he says, "Come play." So what happens?
So halfway through the night, his name's Josh Brister. He said, "The gig is yours if you want it." Every Saturday night.
So you played halfway. You played half a set, and he comes to you and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're in." And
So-
is it a thrill for you to be playing in Nashville?
My goodness, man! To be able to play music and make $100 or however much you make on a Saturday night, 10 to 2 spot, singing harmony with a rocking crowd. It was the best thing ever.
Were you still doing the maintenance in the daytime?
Yeah, yeah.
You'd probably maybe get a nap.
And
or something?
I was on call every other weekend. So sometimes I would be on Broadway with my pager on, sweating, thinking if I get a call,
you ever get a call during a show?
I would have to go make sure. And most times I could talk people out of it.
You could give them instructions on how to save themselves,
Or I could just say, "Hey, can it wait till tomorrow?" The only thing I couldn't say wait is if it was like a 1-bedroom and there was a clogged toilet.
Did you ever have to leave a gig?
Nope.
No, you didn't.
Never had
to leave a gig.
I did have to make a few phone calls, but never had to leave a gig.
So you do that gig that you playing keys on the stage at the stage for how long?
I did that for 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
I played piano. It was like a domino effect. I played for him, and then the Saturday night 6 to 10 guy said, "Hey, I need a piano player." So I would come in on Saturday, set up at 6 o'clock, and play both shifts, and wouldn't even have to tear my stuff down. I just
leave it up,
play both shifts, and then that went that Friday night, and then at one time I was playing 6 nights. And 2 shifts on Friday, Saturday. So I was honestly making about $1,000 a week, cash.
Okay, so you're making good money.
Yeah.
Were you able to quit your maintenance job at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you quit and you were just playing piano, keys, whatever.
Right.
So that's what you're doing. You're the keys guy. Now, do you feel like, okay, now I can really sing?
No, yeah. That was my whole goal the whole time, my plan. I became, buddy with the owner at the stage, and I kept, every time I'd see him, I'd say, "When you gonna give me a shift? When you gonna give me a shift?" Because during sound check, I would sing to check, make sure everything's working, and they knew they recognized, and so one night I overheard him saying, "Man, I don't have a 10 to 2 for Sunday," and I'm like, I'm here. He's like, "You sure?" I said, "Yes." So he gave me 10 to 2 on a Sunday, which is it's not the best.
10P2A.
Right.
Okay.
Late at night on a Sunday.
Right.
But I showed up with a 7-piece band. I was so excited. I had
Beethoven Symphony with you, dude.
Yeah, even though I was a piano player, I hired a piano player.
Right.
Bass, fiddle, steel, drums, guitar. I had the whole thing. And it was just another one of those I've made it situations. But I never got my shift. I never got my own shift till a good bit after that. That was just a one-off. But I just kept on, and finally he said he needed somebody for Tuesday night 6 to 10 at the stage. It's not a permanent thing, but I want you to, whenever they're out, I'm going to give you the call first. I said, "Thank you." It eventually turned into those guys kept canceling. So he gave the shift to me, and I did that for another 3 or 4 years.
Years. Wow. So as you're working at the stage, were there people that came through and you saw come through and then go up? Meaning, can you think back to anyone you were like, "Okay, this guy's really good," and they ended up being something that came through?
Dirks was down there.
Dirks would come and play the stage.
He played the stage for a little bit.
Was he at that point special, or did he become special later, do you think?
I never really got to see him play. I do know. I just would hear stories about this Dierks Bentley guy, and he wasn't there long. Like, he was in and out. Like they gave him a shift, and then I think he signed his record deal.
So you play keys, and at one point you started playing keys for Luke. Now, before we hit Luke, did you play keys? Did you go on the road and travel with anybody before Luke Bryan, or was Luke still so young and new that he was just a guy?
It was before he had his record deal. Yeah.
So you were playing with Luke before record deal, Luke Bryan. So how did you guys even meet? Who set you guys up?
We had a mutual songwriting friend, and his name was Galen Griffin, and he had overheard Luke saying they needed a piano player for some weekend stuff, and he threw my name in the hat. I met Michael Carter, who was Luke's guitar player. He's also now he's Cole Swindell's producer and songwriter, and we talked on the phone, and he says, "Hey, let's do this." And they were like, "Hey, you guys will hit it off. They're from Georgia. Y'all gonna love each other." So, so they hired me without even ever hearing me play. Went down, and it was a couple of college towns, but that was one of those. When I got to do the shows with Luke, I knew immediately that he was on his way.
So you could tell with Luke even early that he was special?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Why?
Because, first of all, his stage presence is the same as it's always been. I mean, he is that guy. And we would do these shows in these college towns, and I was blown away. Like, they give me a CD to learn these songs, and I'd never heard these songs before. But we'd go down and play Milledgeville, and we'd go down and play Statesboro, Georgia, and we play Athens, Georgia, and it would be completely sold out. Everybody's singing every single word to every song he sang. I'm talking about all of his original songs. I'm like, how's he doing this? How did he do this? But it was a big deal back then.
The thing about Luke too, and I like Luke, and just to preface this, he's a good dude, and you would expect someone that big maybe not to be that, to kind of lose it a bit. Luke's a good dude. He's always. He's a good dude, and so. You just wouldn't expect Luke to, and I've seen him do it before, alone, sit down at a piano.
Oh, he's great.
And and people will give Luke crap sometimes because he gets up and dances, and he'll dance and he'll do some Macklemore. But sit that guy down at a piano and have him play.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Next time you have him on a piano, tell him to render you some gospel songs.
And he's played gospel songs.
He'll get it.
It's everything that you want him to be, but don't expect him to be, and then he is, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
So you play with Luke. Now, were you with him when he got a deal, or were you gone by that point?
No, he had already decided I didn't need to be a sideman.
So wait, he decided? Did he fire you?
In a way.
In a good way or a bad way?
A good way. No, it was great. He says, man, I want to help you.
Did you believe him?
I had no reason not to.
Because someone says to me, "Hey, I'm gonna fire you," but in a good way, I'm be like, "Oh, come on, it's not a good way."
It was all. Immediate. One of them's like, "Hey, I want to help you. I want to introduce you to my publisher."
Okay, so he really led to you in a direction.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
He invited me to town. Me and Michael, his guitar player at the time, we started writing together, and those were some of my first co-writes. He introduced me to a guy named John Mabe. Who was married to Connie Harrington. She wrote a bunch of big songs, Terry Clark, yada, yada, and then I Drive Your Truck. And before I met Connie, he introduced me to John. And John said, well, it's funny, meeting you today. He said, my wife, Connie, needs a demo singer for a song. This is years ago. And he said, are you available? I said, yeah. So he hooked me up with Connie. Connie, my very first paid demo.
What was the song? Remember?
Somebody's Somebody.
Somebody. What was that song?
It never got cut.
Okay, because I'm thinking, and I don't want to be dumb and I just don't. Honest, I just don't know it.
Honestly, there's no songs I've ever done gotten cut except for one
that you demoed.
That I sang.
And what was that one?
It was a song called "Braid My Hair" that Randy Owen did for St. Jude.
Randy Owen from Alabama. Yeah. I even know the song. He sings it whenever I go to St. Jude, and he's there.
Yeah, I demoed that song.
Wow. Okay, so you're a demo singer. So here you are. You're moving up the ladder. When do you start to get sniffed from labels?
Oh, that wasn't until after the whole Tracy Byrd thing.
Okay, so you play keys for Tracy Byrd.
Yeah.
So how did that end up happening?
his tour manager's house sitter was good friends with my wife. And once again, it was one of those, she overheard Tracy needing a piano player. And they hired me, gave me some CDs to learn, and never auditioned or anything. Just got on the bus one night, did 3 shows, and on the way home they says, "You want the gig? It's yours."
What was the highlight of your first Tracy Byrd show?
Oh, the highlight was when I messed up big time. Like they did this Ricky Skaggs song, and there's a da, 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 ba, da, bump. It stops, but I let it sustain over the entire. It was just. It was
so you held it.
Yeah, I held out, and everybody else stopped, and they all looked at me. And that's my one memory from the very first Tracy Byrd show.
So from Tracy Byrd, when did you go? Okay, I want to grab a guitar. And I want to be an artist. I want to be a solo artist.
I'm doing this all on Lower Broadway at the same time.
Okay, and this is when you're grinding, because you can play. The thing with Craig, too, by the way, is that we did in the show thing for years is that we just throw a song at him, and Craig knows every song, because you kind of had to when you would play for hours at a time, right?
Right.
So and if you didn't, you have to figure it out really quick.
Yeah, you do 4 hours of music, and then, the occasional $20 tip comes in for a song you never heard. You go home and learn it just in case it gets called again, or requested. But I'm playing Lower Broadway all the while doing the Tracy Byrd thing too. So there was a bartender at the stage where I played. She was dating a guy that was in the radio promo business. And she invited him down. She said, "You need to come see this guy." And he came down, and he would come down every Tuesday night for, probably 2 years. Always telling me, "Hey, we're going to do something. You great, yada, yada, all that." And I had gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, put your money where your mouth is.
Because you've heard it so many times from so many people.
Yeah, so one night he came, he's like, "Look, we're ready to do this. We want you to be our guy. I'm going to bring Keith Stegall down to see you."
Who's that?
He's a producer. He produced all the Alan Jackson stuff, all the Zach Brown stuff. And honestly, he was number 1 on my list. If I could handpick producers when I first moved to town, he was my guy. And I couldn't believe it. I said, "Well, at least give me 24 hours notice so I can prepare." So sure enough, he says, "Hey, we'll be down this date. We're going to be there from 7 to 8. I said, "All right, I'll be ready." So I hit him with 45 minutes of everything I had, and Keith said, "Come by the office tomorrow." And
what's everything you have? Is it your originals? You throw a couple covers in there?
Yeah, no, I didn't do any covers.
So you did all original songs?
All originals.
Could you tell by his face? Because you auditioned, and I've auditioned for acting jobs and hosting jobs, and you watch the faces. Were you watching his mannerisms, and how were you feeling as it was happening?
He was, and now that I've known him for a little while, he was as excited as he would have ever gotten, which at the moment was kind of not the best facial expressions you would expect, for somebody that was excited about seeing some music that they were wanting to do something with. So I didn't know how to take it, but when he invited me to the office the next day, that was a good sign, and that was in August of 2008.
So you signed a record deal.
Signed a deal in September 11th, 2009. So it took a year to negotiate. And then started the record, making the record, and then started my radio tour July 2010, and then Family Man came out.
Here is Trisha Yearwood talking about her 9-to-5 desk job at a label in Nashville, and no one even knew she sang. She talks about how she landed a job as a demo singer.
I had a 9-to-5 job when I first moved to town. I was a receptionist at a record label, and I had to be at work at 9. And I worked at a label where there was a guy at the desk. So if I got there at 9:01, he'd had to sit there an extra hour. So he was really ticked at me if I was ever late. So I was always on time because I didn't want him to be mad at me. And you couldn't leave your desk to even use the restroom without somebody sitting in your chair because you're answering the phones. You're the gateway, the whole place. And it was really depressing for me. First of all, I'm watching people come in every day and do what I wanted to be doing. So that was hard. But secondly, just that structure of this is when you clock in, this is when you clock out. I think some people are made for it, and I think some people aren't, and I don't think I am. I like people say, "Oh, it must be so crazy. You just don't ever know what your schedule is going to be." I'm like, it's kind of different every day, but I kind of love that for me.
That
So
it's consistently different. Like
Yeah.
there's a consistency to it always being different.
exactly. And I like that. I think I thrive on that. I don't think I would do well. I know I don't do well. Did not do well in the 9 to 5.
Did you feel when you were working at the front desk and people would come in to work in a profession that you wanted to do that you were as good as they were already? And because I know it's frustrating when people are doing what you want to do, but did you feel like, oh, I'm there talent wise. It's just I got to put in my time.
My thing was I believed in my voice. I believed that I had a voice and that I could sing. But I'm basically an introvert. I mean, I'm not like I grew up watching Barbara Mandrell on television, and she played every instrument and she danced and she did all this stuff. And I'm not that kind of an entertainer. And so I really thought, I can sing. I'm a little bit overweight. I don't play an instrument really. I can play a little bit of guitar, but I don't. So I didn't think I had enough. I thought I've got this one skill that I believe in, but I don't have all these other ones. So I think for me, I did have a strong belief in myself, and I think if I didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here. But at the same time, I had all these doubts about the things that I thought I needed to be able to do before I could be successful at it.
So you felt you had to develop. Even then, you felt like you needed to develop a bit more.
Yeah,
you weren't
sure.
so strong.
No. I mean, and I went to Belmont where there were so many music majors, and you throw a stick without somebody telling you what a great singer they were, and I was not that girl. And even actually at MTM Records, after I got my record deal, there were people at that building who said, we didn't know you sang.
Really?
Yeah.
So you weren't one of the ones that were like, hey, I sing.
I was not. No.
How did you change that then? How did you start telling people I sing?
I think it was because I was shy and I wasn't bold about telling people I was a singer. But after working at that label for about 6 months and answering the phones and ordering liquid paper and watching people do what I wanted to do, I realized if I don't tell somebody this is what I do, if I don't really get off my butt and try to make this happen, then I'm going to get to do this for the rest of my life. And I reconnected. I had a couple of songwriters. One was Camp Lazy that I had done demos for, and I just found those guys again and said, "Hey, I'm trying to get some demo work." And demo work was my way out. Once I started to get enough work that I could actually quit my job.
John Michael Montgomery talks about the many jobs that he had growing up in rural Kentucky, and John also tells a funny story about why he quit his job as a server.
Like, what kind of rural jobs did you have? Because I grew up in Arkansas and I had a lot of them.
Oh yeah. A lot of similarities with Kentucky and Arkansas. I did everything from, of course, I bagged groceries. I worked in, my mom and dad, even though they were musicians, they were butchers. They cut meat and stuff. So I would, did some of that. I helped build swimming pools.
Like digging?
Yeah. You're talking about a tough job, man.
Yeah, sounds like it.
You got to get down there in the bottom, and you got to take a little paddle that forms the bottom, smooth it out. So, when you put the vinyl on it, it's nice and smooth and everything like that. And I remember and it's always in the middle of the summer, people want to pool.
And nobody wants one in February.
And it's like, they got these stainless steel type walls that you put up. They're in sections. And so we're down in there, and it's 100 degrees outside, and the sun's shining and reflecting all that heat down on us while we're down in there. Now, I was like, I don't know, I was probably 17, 18 years old.
Still hot. Okay, how old are you?
And let me tell you something. I mean, we all pretty much stripped down to our underwear almost to do this job, and a lot of times we did it in the middle of the night when it was cooler, of course.
Really?
Yeah, because, it was just so hot. And your knuckles would get all wore out, from the paddles and then I remember one time we didn't do a good enough job for the guy that owned the company. He pulled in there and shined his, it was almost midnight. He comes in there, shines his light down in there, walks down in there, starts taking his foot and just tearing the crap out of everything. He's like, this is not good enough. We ended up staying until about 4 a.m. in the morning. I was getting paid $3.35 an hour or something like that. It seems like, but I wasn't afraid to, if somebody wanted to pay me to, give me a job. I never did a job like I waited tables at Chi-Chi's, which I enjoyed, but I sucked at it. I mean, I was, I wasn't afraid to tackle anything, and I put in 110%. I knew I was like, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life, but I'm going to give the best I got. But I remember turning 20 in a day, and in Kentucky, you can serve alcohol and be a server in restaurants at 20 in a day. But I loved the place because they had great chips, and of course the bartender I knew pretty well. He'd sneak me a jumbo margarita.
I feel like it'd be hard to sneak a jumbo.
Yeah,
like sneaking a small margarita, but sneaking a jumbo doesn't feel very sneaky.
Yeah, well, it's you got to know sometimes. When it was slow. I was a terrible server. My shift was from 11 a.m. until like 2 or 3, and in the middle of the week, there wasn't a whole lot of people coming in on the weekends.
They don't put the A+ servers at 11 to 2 or 3 on a Wednesday.
The evenings, obviously, the servers were. They would make $500-$600 in tips, and I was like, wow, I'd make maybe $30. But I was singing, making music, playing music at night. So it worked perfectly for me, because I went on stage at 9 o'clock. I finished up about 1 a.m. and gave me just a little extra money to put a little gas in my car and buy some, I didn't have to buy any food because we got food for 50% off there. So, but I had to end up quitting because, like I said, I was not very good at this job. So I had this couple and their 7-year-old daughter came in. They sat down, and they all ordered daiquiris. And, of course, the little girl, they ordered not a daiquiri for her.
Like a virgin daiquiri?
Yeah, they call them nada.
Oh, they do
nada
call it
drinks.
that. Yeah, got it.
And I forgot to write nada down on
You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
And so I go to the bartender who sneaks me margaritas, and I told him, I said, hey, see that mom and dad and the little girl over there at that table there? I said, I ordered 3 daiquiris. One of them's supposed to be a nada. Did I write nada on that ticket? He looks at it and goes, no, that's a real daiquiri. I went, oh, this is not good. I said, that little girl's drinking a real daiquiri. So here comes, we called him Taco. He was the floor manager. Comes out there, and we tell him the situation, and he goes over there and talks to him. He comes back, and he's like, they're all cool. It's like we they were wondering why she was drinking it so fast.
That stinks. That's funny.
Yeah, so I was like, I probably need to find another gig, another job. This one right here, probably, I don't need to be serving 7-year-olds. I can't, I got a one-track mind, basically. I mean, I can't shuffle other jobs. I'm terrible at, what do they call it?
Like multitasking?
Multitasking, awful at it.
What would you be thinking? Would you be thinking about your music career all day? Is that what was really happening in your mind at the time when you're waiting tables? Or were you just like, I don't like doing this?
No, I mean, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed meeting the people. I just, the way my brain operates, it wasn't, you got to be able to multitask to be a good server.
Listen, I was the best.
Yeah.
I was the best server in the land.
So you got 3 or 4 tables going on, and you got to, I just wasn't able to do it. I couldn't. It was like, I can sit down with a guitar, or I can sit down with a video game, and I will master the guitar or the video game because I can spend hours at that one thing and never leave, Or I can sit and watch a bobber fishing for hours on a day and wait for that thing to go under, and I'm, I got the patience of Job with that, but I can't do multitasking. I mean, basically, it's easy to distract me from one thing.
When you talk about how you played guitar when you were younger, what's the age difference between you and your brother?
1.5 years.
Wow, that's so close.
Yeah.
Now, did he have the same dreams to be a country star?
I think we both actually, wasn't like we wanted to be famous right off the bat. We just loved to get on stage and perform. And then we got better at it. And then we started our own band, a little 3-piece band with a bass player guy, a good friend of ours, Tim Williams. And we did that around Frankfurt and different places on the weekends. And then a job, full-time, 5 nights a week gig opened up in Lexington, and that was our dream, was sort of like, are we good enough to do that?
But what was it 5 nights a week? Was it a restaurant? Was it
No,
a
it
club?
was a club. Yeah, a club called Austin City Saloon.
And you were like the house band?
Yeah, and a guy named Greg Austin played there. No relation. I mean, the Austin City Saloon and Greg Austin, I don't think they named it after him, but we used to go in there and watch him play. And that's where I met Troy Gentry at, believe it or not. Me and him first met there.
So you met Troy before your brother did.
Mhm.
And what was Troy, did he live up there?
Yeah, he was from Lexington. Yeah, and he was doing like I was. He was just going around to different places, getting up on stage, trying to make a name for himself. And we kind of got to be pretty good buddies, actually. And then when Greg left Austin City, it got sold, and another guy bought it out. He was having a hard time drawing a crowd in there. And my brother Eddie told him, said, we can draw a crowd in there. So
Could you? Or was he just saying that to get the gig?
well, I think Eddie was just saying that to get the gig, but he's the best. Let me tell you something. Eddie he can be he's just full of it. I mean, I love it because he can literally talk. I mean, he'll talk fish out of water. I mean, fishing or whatever the saying is. I mean, Eddie always had really cool cars because he just had that knack. I had pieces of junk that I had constantly work on all the time, and I was like, man, he got a good cool car, and then he'd trade it off for another cool car. But Eddie was really good with that salesman. He could call people up and talk to them and talk them into stuff, and so the guy gave us an opportunity. Eddie says, hey, we got to put a band together because at the time we were disbanded, and I was like, okay. I said, we'll get Tim Williams. Eddie's going to play drums for me. That's what Eddie did for me, played drums. And Troy, I asked Troy if he'd be part of the band. And he said, yeah. So it was me, Eddie, Tim Williams, and Troy Gentry. And we called it John Michael Montgomery and Young Country. And then we added a keyboard player.
Is John Michael Montgomery and Montgomery Gentry, basically, in
Tim. Exactly. So, I mean, the guy gave us, he said, I'll give you guys 2 weeks. If you start bringing a crowd in here, we started packing the place. I mean,
why do you think that is?
Because I knew what kind of music that place, Texas two-stepping was getting really popular at the time. Greg Austin played a lot of songs, and I would watch these people do these Texas two-step and line dancing. This is, 1986, 87. And I was like, what kind of dance is that? And they was like Texas two-step. And it was beginning to sweep the country. And so I went in there, and of course I played a lot of George Strait stuff, and I mean we all sang everything from Bob Seger to George Strait. We covered it all, and I mean, and plus we were a bunch of young single guys that liked to have a lot of fun. So it was UK, college town. I mean, we packed the place. I mean, we started packing the place, and then. So it became a good gig for us for a while. And then on Sundays, me and Troy was trying to make a little extra money. So we would actually get together, and his dad owned a little restaurant. And we talked his dad into letting me and Troy go in there on a Sunday because they weren't doing any business. He was thinking about closing it up. It's called the Grapevine. And we asked him if he'd let us come in there on Sunday, and me and Troy would just do a little duo. And
you were the original Montgomery Gentry.
Absolutely. And every time I'd see Troy, I'd go, that me and you were the first Montgomery Gentry, don't you? And he'd just smile real big.
So what's that dynamic? Because did you move to Nashville first? And if you and your brother were already playing together, why did you not duo up?
Well, I mean, here's where my head was when I was about 24 years old, playing 5 nights a week. I was like, I saw a lot of other musicians around town. They're 35, 40 years old, still, and playing 4 and 5 nights a week. And I just didn't want to be that. I was like, by the time I'm 30, I want to know what I'm going to choose. Am I going to continue I don't want to continue playing clubs. I either need to go to Nashville and try to make a living singing demos, writing songs, doing something, but I don't want to be a nightclubber the rest of my life. And either that or I just need to go get a real job, and have some kids and family and just enjoy music on the weekends. Like
Building
my mom and
swimming
dad did.
pools down 100 degrees underneath the ground with the paddles, swimming pool it up. You're already good at it.
Yeah, and so literally, I had made up my mind once I turned 25, I was going to make a decision to move down here. Well, just so happened, Nashville started looking for talent outside of Nashville, and there was a guy up in Lexington that was doing a showcase for Atlantic Records, and the manager of that guy stopped by the bar to listen to this song that his artist that he got on Atlantic loved, so I sang it for him. It's called A Few Cent Show. I wrote it. And I got done, and I said, well, how you like it? He went, I like you. He's like, if you'll let me manage you, I'll get you on Atlantic Records. I was like, nah.
Wow, he said that.
Yeah.
Did you believe him?
No. I mean, I was like, this guy's just telling me what I want to hear. And I said, it's a deal. If you get me on Atlantic Records, yeah, sure, I'll let you manage me, Estel Sowards was his name. He's an old coal miner, Eastern Kentucky guy, had silk shirt and a gold nugget, And I was like, there's no way this guy's even going to come through for me. Dang if he didn't, And I remember riding down in his Cadillac for the first time. We run out of fuel because he believed it had that little extra fuel thing going on it.
Yeah.
He believed that. And right before we ran out of fuel, he looked at me, he said, those dimples are going to be worth $1 million each. And I was like, I said, Estel, come on. I said, that's just silly, The guy dreamed big. I loved it about him, He had a little stutter and stuff, had real deep voice, everything. It was, I said, you can't ever trust that extra fuel thing on there, Estel. I had to walk half a mile up a hill to a little white home, knock on the door. Didn't have no cell phones back then. This was 1991. And, the little old lady was like, we run out of fuel. We're on 65, But
did she have fuel?
She called the fuel station that had whatever they call it, the AAA or whatever,
Yeah.
and they came down, brought us some fuel and everything like that. But
was that your first time going to Nashville?
no, I went to Nashville a long time ago, back in around 80. I'm thinking it was 84, 85. I remember coming into town. I had this guitar player. It was me and Eddie and Tim, and he was a long-haired rock and roller guitar player, and we come rolling into Nashville, and that's when Alabama had that huge Alabama sign there on Division Street or Music Row, whatever it was. They had a huge store there. And their name, Alabama, was on top of it, and it was just flickering. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. I've got to go into there. Of course, George Strait, Lionel Richie, Alabama, that's where I got all my chops from. I mean, it was just like love songs and stuff like that. I mean, no, I mean, I just was fortunate enough. So getting back to the story, that guy, they came up to see that guy sing and showcase, and it was right down the road from me. And they weren't impressed, I guess,
by him.
And by him. And so this guy comes into the bar, and it's on a weeknight, so it's like we could tell this guy's from out of town. There ain't nobody in the bar.
Right.
He didn't look like he'd ever been in there, hadn't seen him before. So I get done with the set, and I walk over to him, and he's like, yeah. He said, I'm from Atlantic Records. He's like, I was over there listening to this guy, and he didn't impress me. And so I asked the waitress, I said, is there any other place anybody singing around here? And she said, well, the best singer in town's right down the road here, John Michael Montgomery.
Wow.
And he went, really? And I said, so whoever that waitress is,
you still don't know.
I don't know who it is. Thank you very much.
We have her on the phone right now.
Yeah.
Betsy, you there?
And but I was like, well, I appreciate it. And he said, you know what? After that said, she's right. She says, I got the rest of them coming over.
Oh, that's
to
so
visit.
cool.
And and that's.
What does your brother think about that? That okay, you're going to go sign to Atlantic. Does he follow you down?
Yeah, I mean, he's been my
Or did he come with you?
Yeah, he come with me. I mean, we went to Nashville together. We did everything together. He had of course, he had a life. I mean, he had kids and married and all that stuff. But anytime we did music, anything like that, I mean, we did it together. I mean, he played drums for me. But once I started coming to Nashville, I was playing at Austin City 5 nights a week. He had to kind of hold the roost down there because I now was recording Life's a Dance from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I would drive back and Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I would sing at Austin City. And so, him and Tim and Troy and all of them. Well, I think Troy might actually did his own gig at that point, but then I would come in and, because I still had to make a living. I mean,
recording.
I was making $150 a week, and I wasn't getting paid anything to record at that point.
Right, recording doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, and so anyway, I did that for, a year. I did that for a year because they had a big changeover at Atlantic Records, and Rick Blackburn ended up taking over the whole thing, and other guy left and this and that, and we changed producers. Doug Johnson came into the picture, and I think basically was the reason that I have a career today. I mean, he brought Life's a Dance, I Love the Way You Love Me, Beer and Bones. I mean, he was very instrumental.
Rita Wilson tells us about her first acting gig she got when she was just 16. Rita also talks about her first job as a ticket taker and how that made her want to be a singer even more.
When you graduated high school, good student? You said you went to college for a couple years. What kind of student were you?
Not very present because I was always working.
Working doing what?
Acting. So by then, at 16, I did the Brady Bunch.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, I got my Screen Actors card.
I did not know that.
Yes, Bobby, would you like me to do the cheer for you? Because I played a cheerleader.
I didn't know. Okay, so what role? You're a cheerleader.
I played Pat Conway.
With who?
With Greg and Marcia. Okay, so this was the episode. Greg had a girlfriend. She was running for cheerleader. Marcia was also running for cheerleader. But the girlfriend was kind of using Greg because he was a judge of the cheerleading competition. And so when the time came, it was a tie vote, and he was supposed to be the tiebreaker, and it was going to get him into deep, hot water with his girlfriend. So instead, he chose me, the cheerleader who really was a cheerleader in real life.
I've seen every episode of Brady Bunch, and I can vaguely remember that. I did not know.
Yes.
That was your first role?
Yeah, that's how I got my Screen Actors Guild card.
Was that show big, though, when you went?
Huge.
Were you
Huge.
starstruck by the different
everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Like Maureen McCormick drove a chocolate brown Mercedes onto the Paramount Studios lot. Oh my God. She's driving a brand new, and she was only 15 and a half. She had her permit, but she could drive, with an adult in the car. So she had a Mercedes, which was like, oh, this is crazy. A 15-year-old with a Mercedes. And the producers were the same ones that produced Gilligan's Island and all the shows that I loved. And during the filming, Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha on Bewitched, came to the set and said hi. So she was also one of my heroes. Like,
yeah, exactly. Hey, do the nose. So you're 16 and you're working. Are you like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do? I know I have school, but this is what I really want to focus on? Or was it just, it was so much fun? Like, what is it for a 16-year-old?
It was so much fun. And also, it was consistent at that point. I also had an agent now. So I got my Screen Actors Guild. I get an agent. I'm now doing a ton of commercials. And I just kept working, and I never stopped. And there was a point where I realized, oh my goodness, I think this is my job. I was going to college to become a communications major. How did
you graduate high school, though, honestly?
Oh, no, because I worked, we had a program at high school called 4-4. So you could go to school for 4 hours and then work part-time for 4 hours. And so I got them to agree that modeling after school for 4 hours and doing auditions for commercials was a job. And it was, because I was constantly going on auditions.
I guess there's so many kids there that act or in the arts where those programs are probably at a lot of the different schools because they have to be.
Yes.
Here,
yes.
that would happen because there's not a lot of kids doing that, but that makes a lot of sense.
But it's much more prevalent
Yeah,
now. And you go
yeah.
to universities now, too, and they all have theater departments, film departments, because it's just, there's a need for more content and people who make the content. So I think that's not going anywhere.
Was there ever a place in your career early on where you thought, I want to sing?
Oh, yeah.
But to do that, I may have to take 2 steps back. Like, did that ever cross your mind?
I really wanted to. And I remember having a very specific moment that, I had a job as a ticket taker at this concert venue called the Universal Amphitheater. And it was an outdoor venue, and everybody came through there in the 70s. So it was, Joni Mitchell, Carole King, James Taylor, Jackson Browne, Elton John, the Eagles, you name it, they came through. And I remember sitting on the steps. I would take the tickets. Then they would allow us to watch the show. And I remember sitting down on the steps and having this pit in my stomach. Like, how do you get up there and be a singer? How do you get to do that? How does Linda Ronstadt up there? How do you find a band? Do I have to play an instrument? Like, it was like a palpable pit in your stomach, like a longing, an aching, a yearning, and not knowing how to make that happen. And back then, by the time I started really becoming established, if you were an actor, you stayed in the acting lane. If you were a singer, you stayed in the singing lane. And there really wasn't crossover or any overlapping that happened back then. It was just, that's what you do. And if you were on Broadway, that was different. But Broadway people didn't do film.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. Now everybody can do everything.
Yeah. I mean, like
it's
the mid-90s was kind of the first.
Yes.
The first layer of people. Even then, it was kind of weird, like when Jennifer Lopez would do it in early 2000s.
Yeah.
But now everybody does everything.
Exactly.
So,
I think that's good. I don't think that we should be limited. Everybody's creative. Creative people do more than one thing.
Did your friends know you could sing back? Like, were you? Let's say you're back in the trailer. Did they know you as Rita, who could sing really well, but is also a great actress? I'm just finding where.
Probably no, but I went to drama school. I had done this small play called Vanities, and the director of that play said, "Oh, you seem to be liking to be on the stage. Have you ever had any formal training?" And I'm like, "Not formal training, no." He said, "Well, you should probably go to get some like Shakespeare stage training." And I was like, "Where do you do that?" Like, stage? You mean like a sound stage at Paramount? Like, I literally, I don't think I'd ever even seen a play. And he said, "Oh, there's these schools that you can go to." And he put me in touch with a woman that had come from this program in London at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. So I applied and I got in. While I was there, they would have us do different things to kind of get us out of our comfort zone. And one of them was they assigned me to sing this opera thing.
English.
It was actually a Rossini opera, but I had to sing it as a duet with another woman. And this woman was an amazing singer. And I thought, I'm not ever going to be pulling this off. But anyways, I did it. And I remember one of my teachers came up to me and said, "I didn't know you could sing." I was like, "Am I?" Am I? You call that singing? I don't know. But it was nice to hear that, in a way.
Bailey Zimmerman was just working a gas pipeline a few years ago, and now he's blowing up. Here is his story.
What I read, though, was you didn't start off doing music on any sort of social media. Like even TikTok, you were just showing off trucks. You're just so let's go back then before music. You said, "I'm going to get on." And did you plan to just do it for like your small circle? Or did you go, I think truck people will follow me. I'm going to create a brand here.
So there's this girl in my hometown. It was Walmart. And she was a cashier. And she was like, I was flirting with her. And I was like, "I'm going to catch you on TikTok," because I had posted one video and it did just a couple thousand. And she was like, "You'll never hit 10,000 followers on TikTok." So I just kind of got it in me. I was like, "Well, I'm going to do that." So I built this truck. I started just filming it and stuff and putting sounds behind it. And then it ended up getting a lot of traction. And then I got hooked on truck shows. So then I started taking
that truck.
Yeah, I took it from just like building trucks and posting it. It's like, I think I'm going to start going to these shows and maybe get some, try to win trophies. And I got hooked on that in 2019 and then just kept doing my truck stuff. And then one day I had never sang before and I was wanting to get out of the pipeline industry just because of not seeing family and being gone so much. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start building trucks as a profession. Not only am I going to post them, but I'm going to build other people's trucks. So me and my brother John started doing that. And like 3 days into business, I tried singing just in the shop. And this dude named Gavin Lucas from the same town I'm in was like, hey, man, I think you got a cool voice and I write songs, I can play guitar. Would you ever just want to hang sometime? And I was like, yeah, man, I'll hang sometime. I've never really watched anybody play guitar and sing at the same time.
That's how it started?
That's how
it
this
started?
whole thing started, yeah.
Dear God, I've never heard of a more random, cooler, oops, but awesome story.
It was very random. We like jammed like 3 times, and I was just so in awe of him playing guitar and singing at the same time. He's like writing, like, this guy can write songs. So one night we were hanging, and he said, hey, man, tonight we should try to like really write a song and see if we can write songs. So that was my first single, Never Coming Home. That night we wrote the first verse, and mind you, this was like a week into hanging with Gavin. And we wrote the first verse and then posted it on TikTok that night at like 2 a.m. And I woke up, and I like, kid you not, I woke up, had almost 2 million views, a crazy amount of comments. I called my union that I was in, that I pipelined with, quit.
After one video and the next morning.
Yeah.
And you were already looking to get out, but listen, when there's not a paycheck coming.
Yeah. Yeah, we were laid off at the time, and
got it.
I just felt like, man, if I'm going to chase something, this is definitely something to chase. You know, you might as well try it.
But what's funny is you're like, if I'm going to chase something, I guess it's this thing that just randomly popped up a couple of days ago. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, my mom,
did you never sing as a kid?
My mom would always like tell me in the truck, like, oh, you should sing. I used to be able to sing before I started smoking cigarettes. I used to be able to sing and stuff, and I just always blew it off because that's my mom, you know. So I always just blew it off. And then over my life, I've had like 3 people tell me, man, I think you could sing. But
did you ever sing where people could actually hear you?
No. It all started like 2 years from now, or 2 years back from now. I like sang one day, and then after that I had like 3 people tell me, and then
Sang
the video.
where? Sang where?
Just random, like a random place. I think it was up at the courts in Flora, Illinois, like the basketball courts.
Yeah, so what do you mean
Yeah.
you're just right here, me and you, and you're like, you are my sunshine?
Yeah, it was
they're
Hurricane.
Like, they're like, wow. You sang Luke Combs Hurricane.
Yeah, Luke Combs Hurricane. This kid named Trey Zudi was just jamming on a guitar, and I was real bored, and you always just went up to the basketball courts to hang out, and he was like jamming on the guitar, and I was like, I'll try to sing. And then I tried, and then I tried again, and then that video, I like was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. Like, what could it hurt if I tried singing?
That's crazy. You're like a kid who's walking by a ball field, and you're like, oh, man, there's a ball laying down there. Let me just grab it. Oh, you have a glove on over there? Am I supposed to throw it to you? Yeah. Pow! 102-mile-an-hour fastball. You're like, wow.
Nate Smith talks about the odd jobs that he had while he was trying to make it in music. And Nate shares how working in the medical field and writing songs are actually very similar.
So I read you went back home, right? And almost gave up on singing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So what made you just want to give up?
Yeah, just to be honest, I was crazy in love with this Southern belle, and we got married my first time moving here. She was my next door neighbor. And we just had a lot of passion for each other. We eloped.
Okay.
We did. And I'm a really open book, by the way. Like, there's nothing to hide. And that kind of thing.
Good. I was wondering, I was like, if you don't feel comfortable talking about something,
No,
that's all good.
it's totally cool. I mean, I've told this to a lot of people, you know,
Right.
and stuff. And I honestly wish her really well. We haven't talked in a long time, but we ended up divorcing. It didn't work. It was really painful for both of us. But that's what ultimately led me back to California. So like, I just was like at the bottom of the barrel, just upset, you know, and my publishing company was like, we're not going to keep you signed if you're not going to stay in Nashville. I'm like, well, I got to go home and be with my family. So I went home, and luckily I've been a nurse assistant since I was 18. So I had a job everywhere I went.
Okay.
In a hospital or a elderly home or anything like that. So I went back and started working right away at a hospital and started taking care of patients.
And didn't you have other odd jobs too? You were Uber driver, is that right?
Yep,
That
I did
read?
Uber. I was a courier for a dental lab. Just worked at hotels and just whatever I could get, you know.
Right. But I'm assuming since you go back there, you're like, okay, something is still missing. You know, like, I know this is in my heart. This is
Yeah.
what I want to do.
Yeah.
So now what? You know,
It was always
hearing-
there was always a lot of like confliction with it, because like I would ask my friends and they'd be like, you know, deep down you want to do music. I'm like, yeah, but nursing's really great and I love taking care of people. So I was really split between these two worlds. And I feel like for the first time in my life now, those two worlds have collided in a good way. Like I feel like I am helping people and I'm making music. So it's kind of like this cool thing where I'm like, I feel like nurse singing Nate or something. Or like, I don't know,
Right?
you know, like.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
Like the therapeutic part
Yeah.
of music, that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
like healing. And you get to do both. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So you did come back after, or what was the turning point that made you move back to Nashville?
For the second time?
Yes, for the second time.
So, so I was working as a nurse assistant. I was working in ICU and trauma,
Mhm.
taking care of patients, really crazy stuff, you know, like doing compressions, CPR on people in front of their family, like
Jeez.
crazy stuff, like just, oh my God. And yeah, it was just one of those things. I was helping out my brother at his church. He was a youth pastor. I was helping out the youth band and like getting them together and like, hey, you play this, and then this is your part, and like kind of raise them up a little bit. It was really cool. And then I'm sure it's on every blog that I've talked on and stuff, but my town caught on fire kind of out of nowhere.
Which is, I did not know this,
yeah.
honestly.
Oh,
I didn't know
really?
this part about you. No.
Oh, gosh. Okay, yeah.
And so this is a huge thing that a lot of people may not even know also.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah. So Paradise, California. So it's called the Campfire. It a couple years ago, just randomly caught. It was 2018, November 11th of 2018. Yeah, or November 8th. Yeah, I get it kind of mixed up, but it happened, and then like we lost everything I've ever owned in my entire life. My brother lost his house. They just had a baby. I lost my apartment with all my stuff. Like really, really, really traumatic. And then about 90 people passed away in that fire because it was like they're all trying to leave at the same time, and it just wasn't working. So, yeah, it was a really scary day, you know, because like my brother called me and was like, I'm having a hard time getting out of here, and it was really, really hard. It's really hard. And then once he came, my dad had a house in the town right next door to us called Chico. So we all met up at my dad's, and then my brother's like, hey, I'm good. And when he came into the door, we're just like weeping, and like I hugged him. I'm like, dude, I'm so thankful you're okay. Like it was nuts. And then you'd go to like, there was just chaos in that whole city. Like people were sleeping in tents and the Walmart parking lots, all this stuff. So I was lucky enough to have a house to go to because everything rented up too within the first day or two. So you couldn't even get a rental anywhere. Like it was pretty nuts.
I can't even imagine. That is, it's terrible.
Yeah.
for that
There's a
family.
documentary on Netflix too.
Really?
Yeah. About it on there. So I think Ron Howard produced it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out because I mean, that's crazy. And that's a huge moment also like for your career too, as far as inspiring you, you know, to want to do more with music, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what started it in a sense. Cause, I'm going to tell this part really quick. But when I first moved to Nashville, my supervisor at Starbucks, because I got a regular job when I was out here the first time, his name was Tom Beaupre, and Tom was looking for gigs and stuff. So Tom actually I was his first gig as a bass player. And after I left Nashville, he went on to be part of Florida Georgia Line for the last 10 years that they ran.
Oh, wow.
Their main bass player.
Yeah.
So we reconnected kind of right before the fire and stuff, and we're talking and stuff. And so when the fire happened, I moved in with my dad. He ended up calling up a company that gave his band guitars. So they sent me an acoustic guitar. I lost my other one, nice Gibson and stuff, in the fire. And yeah, so I had this guitar sitting on my front doorstep, and I ended up writing a song about Paradise called One of These Days with one of my friends, and just put it up on Facebook just to help out the community and stuff like that. And it ended up locally, touching a lot of people. And it was just really, really, really rad to see that happen. And I started doing benefit concerts and stuff. And then we got this idea where what if we record it and then give all the money away to somebody who's in need or a charity in the area or Red Cross or whatever we can do. So we did. So we flew to Nashville, recorded this song. I met up with Tom Beaupre to thank him for giving me the guitar. And he said, hey, you should have my friend Joel Briere mix this song for you. I'm like, who's Joel? He's just a good friend of mine. Now Joel, long story short, has become one of my best friends. And I have a few songs. The first songs I put out, Sleeve, Under My Skin, Wildfire, I Don't Want to Go to Heaven, were all produced by Joel. So it's
No
just
way.
how that, from literally met up with Tom at lunch. He called Joel, that's how we met, and that whole thing. So then I come back to California, raised some money on the song, and everything I had, I ended up giving it to this really cool single mom who was moving out of Paradise, who lost everything. And I looked at her and I was like, the reason I got the guitar, the reason that I wrote this song, the reason that I met this person, that person was all because of you. Like this was meant to be your moment. It was the coolest thing to see that happen. And
that's so cool.
that's how loved you are. Like, you know, like, it was just really cool to see that. So that's what started it. And then I started writing songs again. I started working with Joelle and flying in and out of Nashville. And then eventually my friends were like, you should go back. And they raised a GoFundMe to get me to go to Nashville. But my lease didn't start until July. This was like in April or something, or May, somewhere around there. And so I had to live out of my car for about a month and a half and stayed in rest stops, camped, met random people on the road, stayed in their living rooms, like whatever I could do until I got to Nashville. So,
Thanks for listening to the special edition of the Bobbycast, all about artists that had to work hard doing something else in order to get where they wanted to get. Hopefully that inspired you or at least entertained you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the Bobbycast wherever you are listening to this, and please rate it 5 stars. We're back next week with a brand new episode.